Welcome back to the channel, guys. I'm Jim, and this is Doesn't Pay Full Price, and today we are diving into the world, no pun intended, of Red Lobster. So when you think of Red Lobster, what is the very first thing that comes to your mind? Yeah, obviously, biscuits. But what about second? Yeah, it's not so easy, is it? Biscuits are up here, everything else. For me, the only other thing that I even remotely crave is coconut shrimp. We're making Red Lobster's Parrot Bay coconut shrimp. All right, we'll make the biscuits too, but with a twist. Everything today is not gonna be 100% authentic because I'm gonna do it in the quickest, most simple way possible to make it home, which is gonna be in the air fryer. So stick around. It would be absolute blasphemy to make coconut shrimp without some kind of dipping sauce. And since we are making Red Lobster coconut shrimp, we might as well make Red Lobster's famous Pina Colada dipping sauce. Now, I know I shouldn't like this because it's a sweet coconut pineapple dipping sauce on top of sweet coconut shrimp, but for some reason, I kinda like it, and I'm kinda looking forward to it. So let's go. As any good chain restaurant sauce would, this one starts off with a full half cup of sour cream. Make sure to get it all in there. Then you're gonna wanna use crushed pineapple, but my store was out, so I'm gonna make my own by adding some pineapple chunks into the food processor. Just give it a couple pulses, and then when you're done, it should just look nice and crushed. Add a quarter of a cup of that straight to the sour cream. And then, of course, there's gonna be some sugar, so 1 full tablespoon of regular granulated sugar goes in. And most of these recipes call for pina colada mix, but nobody actually has that at home. And if you do, you're overpaying for it. So just get yourself some good quality coconut milk or coconut cream. Add that right in with a little pinch of salt. Then whisk this all together. Then if you're like me, I like it really pineapple-y, so I'm gonna add an extra tablespoon of crushed pineapple. Mix it all together, and then it's not the most appetizing thing to look at, but trust me, it is really good. At this point, just toss it in the old fridge until we need it later. Now that that's done, we're gonna make our good old-fashioned Cheddar Bay biscuits. You don't wanna make this dough too far in advance, but it's totally fine to make it a couple hours in advance, even overnight if you wanna keep it refrigerated until you're ready to use it, because I want these piping hot and fresh when I'm ready to eat. Get yourself a pretty large bowl, and then to that, we're gonna add 2 cups of all-purpose flour, 2 teaspoons of baking powder, along with a half a teaspoon of baking soda, 1 teaspoon of sugar, 3/4 of a teaspoon of salt, a half teaspoon of garlic powder, along with a 1/4 teaspoon of cayenne pepper. Give this a good little mix. And then if you're the type of person that has buttermilk in the house, you could add a cup right now. I never have buttermilk, so instead I have 1 cup of regular milk, and to it I'm gonna add a tablespoon of apple cider vinegar. Let it sit for 5 minutes and it'll start to kind of curdle like buttermilk does. Then in a separate small bowl, you melt a half of a cup, which is a full stick of butter, in the microwave. I like to do it in 20-second increments until it's all melted. After the butter's cooled down a bit, mix the milk mixture in with the butter mixture so you have all your wet ingredients in one place and all your dry ingredients in one place. There's a rumor going around on the streets that Red Lobster biscuits are just Bisquick mix with some cheese. And is it true? Kinda, well, yes and no. Once we mix the wet ingredients with the dry ingredients, we have essentially made a savory pancake mix, which is essentially what Red Lobster biscuits are. So the next step is to mix these two together, but then we are missing one crucial ingredient. Get yourself a nice cheese grater. I like one of these ones with 4 sides because it's nice and stable and I don't have to worry about cutting myself or getting all wobbly. And then a block of extra sharp cheddar cheese. We're gonna use the most coarse side, coarsest. We're gonna use the biggest side, then proceed to grate 1 cup of shredded cheese. Once you've grated 1 full cup of cheese, add it to your dry ingredients. Go and get yourself a spatula and then get your wet ingredients, throw it right on top of all the dry ingredients. Give that a really good thorough mixing until everything's incorporated. Make sure to get all the way down to the bottom of the bowl so there's no dry spots, and then put this aside until you're ready to bake. All that stuff is out of the way. Last but not least, coconut shrimp. Here we go. To do this right, you're gonna need 3 bowls. In the first bowl, which is also the smallest, we're gonna add a half of a cup of all-purpose flour. In the second bowl also goes a half a cup of all-purpose flour. Along with that also goes a half of a cup of milk, about a tablespoon of rum of your preference. Don't forget to keep a little bit for the cook. Make sure to whisk this all together so there's no lumps and clumps and it's all nice and smooth. In the third bowl, add half a cup of panko breadcrumbs, 1/4 of a cup of sweetened shredded coconut, and then I like to add just about a teaspoon of cornstarch just to give it that little extra crispiness. Mix it together till it's all combined. We have here our dredging station. First, we have to make our shrimp look like Red Lobster shrimp. So I have large deveined shrimp. You can get them already peeled, but if not, we're gonna remove everything below this top knuckle and leave the tail still on. Shell should come off pretty easily. Just make sure to get all the little legs and everything off of there. And it should look something like this. Then lay them down flat on a cutting board, and starting about halfway up the shrimp, we're gonna cut it almost all the way through, and that should butterfly it just enough to sit up like this. Do that to all of your shrimps, and then we're ready to coat them. Take each shrimp individually, put it first in the flour mixture, make sure to get every little nook and cranny, knock off any excess flour, and then toss it right into the batter. Again, make sure to get every single surface of this covered so the coconut mixture sticks to it. Toss off any extra batter right into the coconut panko mixture. I like to keep one hand dry and then just really smush it in there. You want all that breading to stick, and you have a perfectly coated coconut shrimp. Once you do this with all your shrimps, we're ready to cook. I have to just briefly interrupt this video. I posted a picture last night to my Instagram account promising anyone that correctly guessed what I was making would get a special shout out. So big shout out to Michelle, Alex, and Lyle. I don't know how you did it, but somehow they all didn't just guess biscuits. They specifically guessed Red Lobster Cheddar Bay biscuits. Big props to you guys. I very much appreciate the support. If anybody out there wants to follow me on Instagram, I'll put my handle in the description below, along with the recipes I'm making today. But for now, back to the video. I like to start with our biscuits because we can keep these warm while our shrimp are cooking. So using 2 spoons, scoop about 1/4 cup of batter for each biscuit. It should be about the size of a small lacrosse ball. Add it to the air fryer, 380 degrees. I like to check it after about 8 minutes. If they're on the bigger side, I like to flip them halfway through and cook them for another 4 minutes or so, but I found about 10 to 12 minutes is absolutely perfect. But what would a biscuit be without melted butter? In another small container, get a half a stick of butter, melt that in the microwave just like before. Then to that, we're gonna add a half a teaspoon of garlic powder and 1/4 teaspoon of dried parsley flakes. Mix that all together, and this is the perfect topping for our biscuits. After 10 or 12 minutes has gone by, I can already smell these biscuits. They smell so good, they look nice and golden brown. So I'm just gonna remove them off to a plate, douse them in our garlic butter sauce, and it really doesn't get much more perfect than this. Flaky, cheesy, chewy, the perfect biscuit. You're gonna wanna keep these babies warm while we're waiting on our shrimp to cook, so just cover them in a kitchen towel, put them in a low oven, and they'll be totally fine for the next 15 minutes or so. I'm gonna load our basket up with our coconut shrimp. You don't wanna overcrowd it. I only put about 6 or 7 shrimp at a time, sprayed with a little cooking oil, and these are gonna come out nice and golden brown and crispy. Just take those out, put them right on a plate, accompanied by our Pina Colada dipping sauce, and then don't forget to leave room for the biscuits. This, my friends, is a perfect date night dinner from the early 2000s. Don't forget a little extra butter, because why not, and enjoy. All right, coconut shrimp, the famous Cheddar Bay biscuits, and the Pina Colada dipping sauce. I have to say, this is hands down the best copycat recipe that I've made so far. I worked at Red Lobster, my wife worked at Red Lobster back in the day. We both agreed that these taste spot on to what we remember them tasting like. And everything on the plate costs just this much money to make. Thank you so much for watching again. Don't forget to hit the like button and the subscribe button on the way out. Also hit the bell so you get notifications for these videos. I'm Jim with Doesn't Pay Full Price, and I'll see you next time.